We can't buy the food from them because they simply haven't got it, and we're not self-sufficient. Then where do we get our food from? That's my argument.
Let's jump across the pond and talk about farming in the UK, which you might think is a niche topic, but actually it's deeply connected to everything happening across the world right now. This is from the BBC. The government is preparing to face the biggest protest yet over its domestic policy agenda since Labour won the general election. It is the week where farmers are heading for Westminster and bringing some noisy and influential friends with them. Guesswork about how many people will turn up at a protest before it has happened is exactly that, guesswork, but some reckon it could be between 10,000 and 40,000 people. Nearly 3 weeks on from the budget, when the plan to charge some farms inheritance tax was first announced, the anger seems to be growing rather than easing. There is a huge row about precisely how many people might be affected. Indeed, speaking on the Westminster Hour on BBC Radio 4, Baroness Malieu, a Labour peer and the president of the Countryside Alliance, said the government's changes to inheritance tax relief smell of incompetence and that a large part of our party has become urban, divorced from a big section of the community. So, Winston, maybe you can clean up a little of this for our American audience that doesn't pay too much attention to all of this. But I think most people just from that can understand why this is connected to everything going on in the United States. I mean, inheritance taxes, punishing people that actually produce. I mean, the idea that you're going after farmers more and more, and it's not just happening in the UK. So I hand it to you.
Yeah, Americans should care about this. I was actually at the protest. I spent the day there. There were between 10 and 20,000 farmers. Oh, well, I'd say protesters, most of whom were farmers. Probably there would be more, but as you know, farmers have unbelievably grueling work schedules. Most of them work 7 days a week. It's one of the most precarious businesses in the world. We've seen an uprising of farmers all across the world, from India to Sri Lanka, Germany. In the Netherlands, a new farmers' party even won provincial elections, a popular vote of provincial elections, only last year. But in Britain, what happened was our new Labour government, who were elected in July this year, announced their new budget, i.e. their new tax scheme and how they were going to raise money. Keep in mind, these are openly socialist. There's an openly socialist government. So Keir Starmer, only 2 weeks before the election, proudly said he was a socialist. And in this budget, they announced that they were going to raise £520 million from farmers by introducing a new inheritance tax. So at the moment, farmers are exempt from inheritance tax. The reason being that usually these farms, of which there are about 200,000 in Britain, stay in the family for generations. Mm-hmm. And if you have an inheritance tax, as is now being argued, you have to cut up the land and then sell off the land. And I mean, that's a whole other story about where the land goes to, but it basically completely destroys the business. Most farmers are asset rich, as in they have some or a lot of land, but cash poor. Mm-hmm. And so the protest is against this terrible tax. I met one man who's the head of the British Farmers Union who told me that his 82-year-old father is now thinking, well, if I die in 2 years or in a year and a half after this has come in, my kids won't have to they won't have to pay £500,000 tax. Mm-hmm. So if I die after, they will. So maybe they're literally people having conversations like that in people's families. There's reports of 4 farmers who have committed suicide already because of this. It's an idea it's just extraordinary because the idea, we always go after the creators, unfortunately, in the West, but going after literally the people who are producing your food. I mean, the whole story sounds like an episode of Downton Abbey, that this would have happened. A farmer would have been confronted with a new tax and then thought, okay, it would be better if I died than handed this to my children who will suffer before it. Let me show you this video of a UK farmer talking about the leverage that they have, because they do have leverage because we all eat food.
We are here at the farmers' protest in London. Why are you supporting the farmers?
I'm an agricultural contractor and farmer from Derbyshire in the East Midlands in the United Kingdom, and we're here to support British farmers to hopefully axe the farming tax and bring back subsidies and bring a general realisation to the public that they need British food and they need to know where the food comes from and how they can support British farmers.
So what do you want to achieve with this protest? Do you think there will be a positive outcome, or do you think the Labour Party will just ignore it?
Well, at the end of the day, as harsh as it sounds, if there isn't a positive outcome, then we can start shortening food supplies, which will have a knock-on effect on consumers all over the country. You'll see, remember the toilet roll scenario in lockdown where the toilet roll wasn't on the shelves? Well, you'll end up seeing that with food. At the end of the day, I'm sure people will miss food more than toilet roll. There'll be stuff that happens like more protests, and there'll be farmers going bankrupt. And the problem is, farmers go bust, they have to sell the land, big businesses buy it, big airlines to offset carbon. And then we import all the food in from Europe, and then they realise, right, well, the UK aren't self-sufficient, so we'll put the prices up. But on the other hand, what might happen is if you look now, they're having floods, but in the summer, if they have droughts and big floods in the summer, and it ruins all the crops, and that we can't buy the food from them because they simply haven't got it, and we're not self-sufficient, then where do we get our food from? That's my argument.
Guys, I have to mention, I get to see you two while the clip is playing, and you both were nodding along exactly the way everyone in my studio was nodding along the entire time. And it's interesting because the first two stories we talked about, it's a lot of like insider stuff. Okay, maybe this person said this or did this. How does politics work? But something about that the farmers are under attack, it is pretty damn clear, it seems to me, Isabel, who the good guys and bad guys are. And also Winston noted that Starmer basically said he's a socialist. I mean, in a sense, his whole political ethos is let's take control of everything. Today's show is sponsored by Aura, the all-in-one app designed to protect your personal information and keep you safe online. Let me start with a question. How many spam calls and texts do you get in a day? Spam calls are annoying, but the real issue is even bigger. Hackers recently stole 2.9 billion records from national public data. These records include names, addresses, dates of birth, phone numbers, and worst of all, social security numbers. Some of this data has even been released online for free. If you're not taking steps to protect your personal information, now's the time to start. That's why I'm grateful for Aura. Aura monitors your personal data across billions of data points, including the dark web and public records, to alert you to potential identity theft. They don't just stop there. They also work to reduce spam calls and protect your sensitive information from being misused. And in the case of the worst, Aura provides up to $5 million in identity theft insurance to give you peace of mind. Protect your online security with Aura today. You can try Aura for free for 14 days at aura.com/Rubin. Once again, that's aura.com/Rubin. Don't wait. Your peace of mind is worth it.